Let's get into it. Soul Not For Sale podcast. We got Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson throwing a very subliminal jab at Ben Shapiro. Tucker and Ben have been feuding ever since October 7th. Tucker Carlson is very America first, so much so that a lot of people either want to see him as president or they would love to see him as VP, because it seems like every single thing he talks about is directed towards the American people either becoming more informed about what's going on around the world or talking about issues that are directly affecting American people, whereas Ben Shapiro seems to be kind of focused on what's going on in Israel and having the mindset that all eyes in America, even the ones that are poor and surrounded by immigrants and fentanyl here and there, they should all be looking at Israel. So when those two views collide, the feud happened. So Tucker Carlson is going to say some things about Ben Shapiro in this clip, and then I'm going to show you exactly why when he talks about free speech and you claim you're for free speech, but you're not really. He's talking about Ben. I'm going to show you a little compilation of Ben Shapiro flip-flopping on freedom of speech, and then I'm going to show you who this is not subliminal. He outright calls out Bari Weiss. Bari Weiss was on the Joe Rogan Experience once before, and it was the most embarrassing thing to ever happen on Joe Rogan, bar none. The most embarrassing. And I'm going to show you that clip after as well. But of course, we're going to start with Tucker. And just so you guys don't forget, I got the new channel where I break away from the Rogan content. It's Coach COLIN Media. Go ahead and check it out. We got 42 videos up there for you to binge out on if you haven't already. Now let's get into the Rogan clip.
Who are like on your side because they're for free speech, or not actually for free speech at all, who are pushing a very specific foreign policy agenda, for example, and using another issue to lower your defenses and let themselves into your brain. And I think that's really sinister, really, really, really sinister. And it's becoming more obvious now. Like if you're for free speech, then you're just for free speech because you support the principle. It doesn't, the content of the speech is not that interesting to you. The fact that a sovereign human being has a right to express himself because he's not a slave, he's a citizen and a human being, like that's what matters.
Yeah.
And if all of a sudden you like become famous, like I'm for free speech, and then you support silencing people who articulate opinions you disagree with, like you're a fraud. Mm-hmm. You're kind of a sinister fraud.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because that's the business I'm in, I've really noticed that. Have you noticed this?
Yes. And that's also the same kind of thing when you hear them talk. If you hear someone talk that's saying something that's kind of horseshit, it resonates with you that's what you've seen.
You had a moment
before.
with Bari Weiss on your show that went everywhere. I saw a clip of it. I never saw the show itself, but she was going on about, so she was posing as one thing, and then you pressed her. You're like, well, hold on a second. What do you mean by that? You just attacked somebody. And she had no idea what she was talking about. And it became really clear to me watching. That completely changed my view of Bari Weiss forever. I was like, oh, she's a fraud, actually. This person's not honest at all. Like she has a very specific agenda. That's all she cares about. The rest of the stuff is just a kind of sleight of hand maneuver.
You're talking about the thing with Tulsi Gabbard?
That's correct.
Yeah, she called her a toady and she didn't know what that meant.
Well, but she had no idea. Like Tulsi Gabbard had straight outside the lines on some Syria or something.
Uh-huh.
And Bari Weiss was, going through the files in her head, like, what does she have to believe? And she was aware that, Tulsi Gabbard had somehow violated that in a way that no one's willing to say, like, in detail to fully articulate. What did Tulsi Gabbard do wrong? No one will tell you. She's just bad.
Yeah.
And then what that revealed about Bari Weiss is she's completely dishonest. Like, she's a liar, actually. You can't, by the way, if you attack somebody, particularly personally, and can't explain why you're attacking the person, like, that's not acceptable. You're a dishonest person if you can't explain why.
I think it's a common thing that people do in private, and they get accustomed to speak. Like, we're talking like we're talking in private. We're just two people talking.
Right.
So people get accustomed to saying things without being able to back them up. Like, oh, he's a vaccine denier.
Well, I've done a ton of that in my life.
Yeah, I have as well.
Because I'm an asshole. So it's like, I just don't like that person. Okay.
I have as well. But what I'm saying is, I don't know how much time Bari Weiss had spent doing podcasts before that.
Well, she'd spent, look, I'm just saying, like,
but I
it's
think
important to be honest about what your agenda is.
I think she is honest. I think she is honest, and I really like her.
Yeah.
I like talking to her.
Against,
She's a very intelligent
person.
Not
against her personally.
I just think that was a mistake. And I think you're allowed to do that and hopefully learn from that and don't do that anymore. Don't say a thing that you and I've done that. I've definitely done that. I've said a thing and I wasn't really exactly sure what I was talking about.
Oh my gosh, I do that every day. Yeah. And I may have just done it with Bari Weiss, so let me be a lot more specific about what I mean. If your agenda is neocon politics, which is her agenda, just say so. don't pretend to be a defender of free speech as a principle, which is what she does.
How is she a defender of neocon politics?
Bari Weiss?
Yeah, like what specifically?
Well, anyone, including me and Tulsi Gabbard, who thinks that America shouldn't be funding wars that don't help America, she will attack as a traitor to America or whatever it takes. And so, no, that's her main interest, which is fine. And by the way, I actually have friends who I disagree with really strongly on this question who believe in neocon politics. Doesn't mean they're terrible people or I hate them or I'm not friends. I'm still friends with them. But they're very direct about it. This is what I care about. Okay, fine. You know, I really care about bird hunting and fly fishing or whatever. I can, and you don't. That's totally cool. But be honest about it. So if your job is to defend the right of free people to say what they really believe, then go ahead and defend it. And if somebody is not allowed to speak or fired from his job for having an opinion that you disagree with, defend him anyway. I just interviewed a guy who is a black nationalist socialist. Okay, so I'm obviously not much of a black nationalist. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I'm not. And I'm not a socialist either.
Now, that is... Caught him in his... he's blowing a kiss at Joe right now. Now, he actually did interview that person. I'm going to do an episode on that because that's a very interesting story. Black National Socialist who is going to be in prison because he recited what they are calling Russian propaganda. So... he just kind of repeated something that he saw in a video. That's it. Very odd. Very, very odd. And the guy's like 83 years old, so he'll more than likely, if he goes to prison, he will end up passing away in prison, and it's a tragedy. But let's get back to what they were talking about. Now, the one thing that Tucker spoke on, and Joe's trying to kind of... he likes Bari Weiss, like he said. She's a journalist. She was one of the people that was involved in the Twitter files, if you don't know. But Joe was trying to make sure to mend that relationship, making sure to, hey, just so you know, I like her. I think she's honest. I think she's good. But Tucker said something while Joe was trying to get that out, trying to, I won't say virtue signal, but he's trying to let her know when she sees this clip, like, I was on your side, that you should be honest about your agenda. And it's something that I kind of do naturally. I always just say, if I'm talking about Joe, I'm like, hey, look, obviously I like Joe. If I'm talking about Trump, I'm like, hey, just so you know, like, I got a bias towards Trump. I think he's great. Or I don't really like Biden. So as I'm saying all this, just know that that's who you're listening to right now. Or I say I like Tucker. I'm always very open about my bias. If I know it's there, I'm going to say it right away before I get into the whole thing. And I wish people would do that. And I made a video about Jon Stewart just a few weeks ago, and I was talking about this exact same thing. It was actually a feud between Tucker and Jon Stewart, and I was talking about how he acts like he's this guy who has no stake in the game, like he's just in the middle, just looking at this identity politics, going, man, I gotta straighten these two sides out. He's a guy that acts like that, but in reality, he is very, very left-leaning, and that's the type of stuff that Tucker's talking about. People who disguise themselves as one thing, to exactly what Tucker said, to lower your guard so you can be like, oh, that guy's like me, man. He's just in the center. But then they start spewing this, in terms of John, start spewing this leftist ideology. And now you're hearing this leftist ideology from someone who claims that they're in the center, and now your guard is lowered and you think you're just taking in the perspective of someone that's like you, and now you start taking that in. And without even realizing it, you start leaning more to the left and more to the left and more to the left. And then I had a whole compilation of how his talking points always mirror CNN's talking points. A little odd for somebody who is just not a propagandist, just saying what he feels, has no stake in the game, is calling out both sides. He calls out one side. I use the terminology, he tickles one side, he'll tickle Biden. You don't talk right. You're a little old. And then when he goes at Trump, he's very aggressive. He's more than poking. He's attacking when it comes to Trump. So Tucker's talking about people like that. He's saying Bari Weiss is very much like that. And he was also talking about Ben Shapiro, because these people, Ben Shapiro's one of them. He's talked about how his platform is freedom of speech. They want people to be able to say the thing, they not be silenced like the left tends to silence people. And that's what the Daily Wire was all about. And then, as everybody knows, when Candace Owens started talking about Israel, when she started defending Kanye West, when she wouldn't distance herself from Kanye West, it started rubbing certain people the wrong way at the Daily Wire, and they ended up firing her because of those stances. All of a sudden, the freedom of speech platform is freedom of speech, but if you have this to say about Israel, or if you have this thought process towards the war, then we're gonna push you aside. Now, I have a compilation here of Ben Shapiro actually flip-flopping when it comes to freedom of speech, how he used to talk about his platform and how he talks now that they've actually let somebody go because they wanted to, in fact, silence them on their platform, which a lot of people argue every right to do. I argue that if you say you're never going to get rid of someone because of their opinions, that you stand by that. And if you don't stand by that, you are compromised. And everybody who still engages with your content, and sadly, I do from time to time, I still see Ben Shapiro all the time, they also are now hearing this compromised view. You know, our guards have been let down a lot. We feel like we're watching these people who are very freedom of speech, but in reality, they're now being able to feed a different perspective to us. And what Ben's trying to do right here in this compilation is feed us a perspective of it's okay to silence XYZ person. Let's go into it.
We have literally tens of millions of people in the United States who are afraid that the cancel culture is coming for them. And cancel culture does exist. Okay, so what this results in very, very often is corporations looking to cram down a particular viewpoint on you and then cancel you. When it comes to the hosts on the Daily Wire, obviously everyone was able to say what they want. But the reality is that there is an Overton window at the Daily Wire. There are polls out there that show that a vast majority of Americans in every single political group, including liberals, feel like they cannot say what they want to say in public because they're afraid that they are going to be canceled, fired, cast out from polite society. This actually happened to a socialist moron named Nathan Robinson. He got canceled from The Guardian. And he said he got canceled from The Guardian because he had put up some anti-Israel tweet. Okay, now I think he's an idiot. I think that his views on Israel are abhorrent, but I don't think that he should lose his columnist slot over at The Guardian. That's a different story, obviously, when it comes to any publisher. Any publisher gets to make decisions about what it wishes to purvey and not. He certainly would not defend anybody on the other side who got canceled. In fact, he has repeatedly said cancel culture does not exist. Okay, it does exist. The fact that there are people out there who want you to lose your job for the sin of saying things they don't agree with is extraordinarily real, and it is happening on a moment-by-moment basis. You know, the Daily Wire is a publisher, not a platform. Publishers obviously have to decide what sort of things they wish to pay for the publication of, and when it comes to hosts and publishers, parting ways, obviously there'll be a non-meeting of the minds. That's pretty much all I can say on that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there was a non-meeting of the minds. That's pretty much all I can say on this.
I figured out what non-meeting of the minds means, because you're hearing that, right? And it doesn't make much sense, right? A non-meeting of the minds would be an unofficial meeting of the minds, and I think the minds would be Ben Shapiro, who is a co-founder at the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, who is, I believe he is acting CEO, also one of the founders as well, and other leadership, all meeting, but it's unofficial, and then Ben letting them know that he does not want Candace to be a part of the show anymore, and then that actually happening. Allegedly, I don't know, but that's what it sounds like, because he keeps saying non-meeting of the minds. So it was like a non-meeting. It's like, I just saw you in the hallway, or I'm just sending you this text. I'm pissed about Candace. We got to do something about this. I don't want to see her on this platform anymore. That's just my thought process towards what he was saying. So even in this clip, you see that he's talking about somebody who worked for The Guardian, and he's like, this guy, I don't like what he has to say, and I don't like what he said, but I don't think that he should have been fired. And the thing about it is he's talking about a publisher. Then he turns around years later and says, well, we're a publisher, not a platform, so we can get rid of whoever we want. So again, it's a very clear flip-flopping of the issues. Now, getting to what Bari Weiss, the most embarrassing moment on JRE history. There has never been a more embarrassing moment. I'm telling you right now. There was one where he was debating this guy Adam, and Joe was just like obliterating this guy. That was pretty embarrassing. But the guy, at least when he didn't know what he was talking about, he would say it, and it was different. This, she just doesn't know what's going on. It's actually very, very interesting to see. Check this out, guys.
Johnson or some shit.
But okay, so who's in right now? So we have Kamala, Kirsten
Tulsi
Gillibrand. Oh, monstrous.
Monstrous?
Ideas.
Well, when she was 22, she had...
No, she's an Assad toady.
What does that mean?
She is
What's a toady?
I think that I used that word correctly. Jamie, can you check what toady means?
Like towing the line? Is that what it means?
No, I think it's like a Toadie.
What does that mean?
I think it means what I think it means.
Toady. Definition of toadies. A person
A
who
sycophant,
flatters or defers to others
I kinda
for
used it right.
self-serving reasons.
A sycophant.
So she's an Assad sycophant. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's known about her.
Like, what did she say that,
We have to look.
qualifies
I
her?
don't remember the details.
We
I've read
probably
it.
should say that before we say that about her. We should probably read it rather,
Well, I have read it.
No, I mean, we
just,
should right
oh,
now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
just so we know what she said.
Look up
I've had her
Tulsi
on here
Gabbard.
before.
Look
and I
up
really
Tul-
enjoy talking to her. I like her a lot.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I like talking to her.
Okay,
I like
okay.
talking to her. I don't know about...
I think she's like the motherlode of bad ideas.
Whoa.
I'm pretty positive about that, especially on Assad. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong.
Well, my take on her was that I think as a person who's coming from the left, who's also a veteran and is very articulate and sensible and a woman, and in talking to her, we didn't get into Assad or any of those things, but talking to her about what she feels is wrong with the current administration and the way things are running and a direction she thinks things could go in, she has some very promising ideas. I didn't know about this.
But doesn't she also? Did she ever apologize for believing in conversion therapy?
I didn't even know she believed in conversion therapy.
Am I crazy?
Is that real?
I'm almost positive this is real. I think her father ran
When you
a
say
center
conversion therapy, you're
for
talking about gay people.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that. I never heard that. I did hear something about when she was very young. She was like
looking this up.
22. She had said something about gay marriage and civil unions that she apologized for and said that she evolved. She revealed she met Assad in Syria without informing top
I'm
Democrats.
telling you, she's.
She said she went on a fact-finding mission in support of peace for Syrian people, but characterized U.S.-backed rebels as terrorists.
Yeah, she's. I mean, hold on.
I can keep looking, but
I'm
I don't
telling
have enough
you.
time to research everything
Yeah.
all at the
Yeah.
same time.
I can come back on when I
Okay,
know
but
more.
we can do this another time.
Okay.
But who do you think?
We can do this another time. Wow. That was that's the worst thing. That's like somebody you say like, "Oh man, this guy is just demonstrative." And someone's like, "What does that word mean?" Oh, it's the worst. Oh man. Ooh. Oh, chills down my spine, man. That's why I don't use big words. That's why I don't come over here like Jordan Peterson being like with all these big, because if somebody's just like, what does that mean what you just said? I'm gonna be like, honey, put the baby down. I need you to Google this for me. Oh my gosh, that's the worst thing that have happened. But that's what Tucker Carlson was calling out. You know, going back to what Tucker said, the whole having people have their guard down so you can then put a different type of ideology into them. You know, it's something that's happening a lot right now on YouTube. You know, honestly, I like the Daily Wire. I like the voices. I like Mike Knowles. I like Matt Walsh. I like Ben Shapiro. I like Ben Shapiro. I like the things he has to say. I like the things that he said when he was on campuses. I think he's great. But it does seem like right now, everybody has their guards down or had their guards down to that platform. And then they started trying to talk about how this form of censorship that they've decided to do is not censorship and it's fine. And, you know, we're a publisher, not a platform. They're finding all these non-meeting of the minds. The Overton window is just, they're trying to feed us. They're trying to feed us the opposite of what they were claiming to be in the first place. You know what I mean? So just very interesting. But again, talking about exposing biases, Tucker doesn't like Ben Shapiro right now. Tucker doesn't like Bari Weiss. If you don't know, the reason that he's calling out Bari Weiss is Bari Weiss actually alluded to him being anti-Semitic as Tucker was going on this America First movement of we should not be involved in this war with what's going on in Israel. There's more than enough stuff to deal with. right here on American soil. As he was saying that, Ben Shapiro started attacking him. Bari Weiss started attacking him. Then he started having priests and pastors on his platform and all sorts of stuff. He just started analyzing Christianity in America. Like, you know, if you watch Tucker, you know, he's focused on America. He really is. And if he's not focusing on America and he's talking to another world leader or something like that, he's very open about it. He's very willing to ask questions. Also, Ben Shapiro saying don't ask questions, that was directed at Tucker Carlson as well. So I will say Tucker Carlson has this bias of he's been getting attacked by Ben Shapiro and he's been getting attacked by Bari Weiss. Both of them have this idea that him being America first and him thinking the way he does could somehow open them up to calling him anti-Semitic. Ben Shapiro has not done it. Ben Shapiro has called him dumb. He's called him bizarre. He said what the things he are saying is ugly, but he hasn't gone the anti-Semitic route. But Bari Weiss actually did. She was touching on that. So Tucker has a bone to pick with those people, and I think he handled it quite well. I think he handled it quite well. He waited until he was on. He hasn't been saying much about it. There's been things here and there, like on breaking points in different podcasts, but as soon as he got on the biggest platform, he's like, I'm going to name Bari Weiss by name. I don't know, pretty solid. But again, back to biases. I love Tucker. I like Tucker way better than Bari Weiss and Ben Shapiro. That's just me. I don't know how you feel about it. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to show you that. Really, I love when people are willing to call out names. I love when the people that I listen to and look up to are willing to stand up and say, this person is wrong. This thing is wrong. I love it so much. So as soon as Tucker did that, I was like, this is going to be an episode. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, share. It helps tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.